Hi everyone, this is Dr Raquel Butler from Integrated Veterinary Therapeutics.
And Sophie Vandenberg from Equine Postulate. And we welcome you to the Equine Functional Posture Podcast, your ultimate source for insights into the influence of functional posture on biomechanics, health, and overall well-being of horses.
Whether you're a seasoned equestrian, an equine professional, or simply a horse enthusiast, this podcast is designed to help you understand the critical aspects of functional posture.
Tune in each week as we discuss practical tips, delve into expert interviews, and explore the latest research in the impact of functional posture on equine anatomy, physiology, movement, and more.
Let's create a world where we empower our horses to be in a mental, emotional, and physical balance. Hi everyone, welcome to today's exciting episode. We have a guest with us today, Jochen Schleese, which is super exciting. He is a master saddler, an educator, he's been a professional rider, founder of Saddle Fit for Life with over 40 years of experience in the saddle industry. So we're super excited to have him on for a two-part episode. So how are you going today, Soph?
Very well. Yeah, this is going to be an exciting conversation because it's a foundational topic and so many horses wear a saddle, so it's applicable for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we'd love to know a bit more about you, Jochen, and your background. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you very much for the lovely introduction, Raquel, and nice to meet you and Sophie. Yes, I grew up in Buenos Aires, in Germany, and other parts of the world because my dad taught physics and math all over the world in German schools. So mom always had to pack us kids up, and here we go to another country. And in Buenos Aires is actually where I fell in love with horses, and I saw how a gaucho was chasing an emu, like a cowboy chasing this giant bird, and he didn't touch the reins. They seemed to be one, and I thought, I just saw God. Was that centaur? I don't know, but it was magical. From that moment on, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of the life with horses. I was only 4 years old at that stage, and when we finally moved to Germany, my parents made my dream come true, and we started with one horse, and then we ended up with a whole herd. The way it goes. Parents are not into horses. My mom's side, they're medical sides, and I always thought I'd become a doctor because I am fascinating with anatomy, biomechanics, physiology. That was everything. And with my dad being a physicist who always says, the person knows the how, but always follow the person knows the why. So just because somebody has an opinion or somebody tells you to do so because I say so was not the upbringing I was brought up. And needless to say, it was sometimes tough, especially when you're in a very traditional industry, which I landed in by fluke. My first choice was not to be a saddle maker. I thought I want to become a doctor. But I was spending too much time in the barn, and I had to go to night school to be accepted, to get the grades up to be accepted in medical school. And Dad says, you're just hanging around here. You're just going to learn a trade. Well, I might as well do something I can use for my horses. And that's how it started to stumble. And when I asked my master, why do we do it like this? Oh my God, don't ask so many questions. I'm just doing what my daddy said. I'm supposed to know the why. So anyway, often I hear, don't do it. Just say as I said. Okay, fine. Fast forward, my riding career was doing very well, and my sister stopped riding, which my brother and I really liked because she was the better rider and had the better horses. So we ended up with her horses, only to find out later she stopped because of pain. She was embarrassed enough to admit to even her own mom, right? And fast forward from that, 15, 20 years later, doctors writing a book about long-term damage, which caused not only to the girls, but only to the boys. And when we look at what my riding master told me, he was so old, older than time. He was 96 years old, but man, could this guy yell. He was actually still riding, not at that stage, but he was original riding at the German cavalry. And he always taught us, it takes 3 human lives to learn how to ride. Well, when he told me this, we didn't have social media
Mm.
or internet or cell phones, right? But he drilled into us. Anybody who is with horses has the obligation, the duty to help these horses we take out of the wild, put them in captivity, and we need and must learn from each other. And that was always, maybe it's from my parents' side, my dad's side, being a teacher. You got to teach your students. I was doing quite well with writing instructions and giving lessons. I didn't really want to do a job in that fact. But as I said, Dad made me do so. And then when I finally got sponsored by this cool saddle company, what everybody else in my team had, I got the baseball cap, I got my jackets, I got the paycheck, I got the cool saddle. Stupid me. My cognitive innocence took over because I didn't want to admit it's the saddle. It made the horse lean so hard into the right shoulder. He was so heavy in my hand. Like, it was so embarrassing and it's still embarrassing to admit that I didn't want it to be the saddle. I blamed everybody else. I blamed even me. Oh, yeah, now we're riding 4-star 3-day eventing, and we're going to qualify for the European Championship, and that's our long-term goal. Maybe it's a little harder than I thought. But in the end of the day, again, another leap into the future, when science, especially your field, the
Mm.
veterinary science, had more to say about back pain rather than, oh, give him a 2 weeks off, oh, give him bute, you know? So you're way too young, but your colleagues who went to university in the 60s, 70s, what was his name? Dr. Harrison, Adrian Harrison. He's a prof at the Copenhagen University. He told me when he went to university, now mind you, he's not a rider. And as you know yourself, not every veterinarian is a rider. Maybe they
Yeah.
become a small vet, maybe a big vet, doesn't matter. All I like to say out and put out that not every vet is a rider. They don't have to be. It's a big plus if you're a rider. See, for me as a kid, how can you not be a rider if you're a vet? I never understood it. And I think it's still widely out there that most people think that, right? So he said to me when he went to university, they were taught in 1978, horses don't have pain receptors.
Yeah.
You got to be joking me.
Yeah.
Right? So and today, Dr. Sue Dyson was one of the first, and now many universities talk about the pain scale. We got apps what measures horses' back, riders' measurements, apps what scan. We got anyway, I don't want to go too much into
Ethogram.
what
Yeah.
Instagram, you name it, So it's so cool what's all out there now. And that I think really leaped forward in the last 5 to 6 years massively the saddle fitting world. And I became a great believer, not because my mom's field, the medical side, they couldn't go with opinion. They had to follow science. But unfortunately, we have from 17 saddle fitting schools, still 5 saddle fitting schools who teach us completely the opposite what veterinarian papers say or what people say the other saddle fitting school. And of course, as a consumer, if you are a person that says, oh, I have this saddle fitter, he went to this school, he should or she should know. But how do you know?
Yeah.
They told you the opposite what the other school is teaching you. So very quick, I went away from the belly button syndrome. First time I heard the belly button syndrome, I said, what is a belly button syndrome?
What is that?
And then Tracy Turner, he's a professor at the University of Minnesota. He said to me, Jochen, everybody has an opinion, like everybody has a belly button. So he called it belly button syndrome. So I wanted to go away from that. And I was so happy when medical doctors write book about long-term damage to the rider and medical doctors, veterinarians, who also like you, okay, Dr. Joyce Harmon didn't have osteopaths, but she was chiropractic schooled, acupuncture schooled, she was a rider, and she put something on black and white. Now we have something what is not the belly button opinion anymore. It is something what is based on science. Hallelujah. Where was that when I was riding? Because I was strongly driven by belly button syndrome, people who made a lot of money making sure that I, every time I give an interview or talk about my horse, have the jacket or the helmet on of that saddle. So it's okay if you play golf and you have a baseball cap with a swoosh on here. The golf club doesn't care if you whack, right? But if we abuse the horse, and I'm sorry, I have to use the word abuse the horse intentionally, that's cruelty, and these people should be locked up. Now, why I do what I do and why I'm so happy to be on your podcast is because most people don't want to hurt their horse intentionally. They hurt it.
No, they're not aware that that's what they're
doing. Yes, people don't know what they don't know. And when they hear this, oh my God, I know that. Right? For example, when I scratch the horse with the fingernail, just gentle as you scratch a mosquito bite, what's the lip doing? And what's the groove in your back? Right? For example, if I hit my nerve here, the ulnar nerve or the funny bone also known, I feel it here. So if I can make certain pressure or certain irritating to the back, it doesn't show it, oh, it's under the saddle, back right. It fires to the back right hock or whatever. Just stupid. But you guys get the drift. So a little bit too much talk, I'm sorry, but I wanted to share with you a little bit how I was hurting my own horse because I followed into the belly button syndrome, and I'm so glad that people such as yourself put the big girl pants on or dress and says, this is the facts. This is what it is. Full stop.
Yeah. And I think, so many people are still pretty stuck, like they don't understand the effects of the saddle on the horse's posture and biomechanics. And yeah, when the horse is obviously misbehaving, they start looking for answers. But I noticed you said, that your horse was just so heavy in your hand and that you didn't relate that to saddle fit. Can you discuss some of the more subtle signs that horses show relating to saddle fit? Like we know some of the more obvious ones like bucking or stopping and girthiness and, some of those more pronounced behaviors. But the more subtle signs, I think, often get mistaken for training. And people just keep going to different trainers to try to correct them. So could you kind of elaborate on some of those more subtle signs?
Yes. I like to answer this with why they do these subtle signs. Rather than say, oh, if he does that with the left ear being back and forth 3 times, then that's it. And I don't want to answer like this. I want to answer a little bit different. We all, when I say we as horse people, love the horse most of the time from the bottom of our hearts, but we not all do the same thing. One person maybe be a jumper. Other person may be an endurance rider. Somebody very eventers or dressage riders. So if I'm picking on the dressage rider for a second, okay, when I got to give my aids, which are so subtle that the judge doesn't even see it, the horse can feel how I move in the saddle, and feel the slight flexion of my calf or whatever, right? The horse does for lack of words, let's call it the trick. With the show jumpers, this is money when the horse is very slow or crosses the rail. So if I have a show jumping horse, what jumps like that with his feet beside his chest, without a saddle, but with his saddle, his feet are together underneath the chest, we can all practice this ourselves. I have little grandchildren. They have no choice. They love horses because everything in my house is horses, and I play with them when they're 1 to 5, and we play horses nonstop. So when we play jump over this little whatever I put in the ground, it says you got to jump with your front legs. So when we play these games, soon as you play walk, trot, your legs go like that. But if you jump, you put both fists beside the shoulder. And then if you ever do it, for people who don't see us right now, you can do it at home right now. If you move one leg up, one leg down, you don't really feel a lot of shoulder motion. But boy, when you put your shoulders, your front legs up and put them beside your chest, your scapula really comes together in the back of your back. Now that's our shoulder blade, which is connected with collarbones. Horses don't have it. So for a horse, what is restricted with, no matter what branded saddle it is, let's say saddle, huh? So without naming it, if I cannot bring my scapula back, the only way I can bend is my elbow and my fetlocks. Right? The shoulders stay where it is. So needless to say, my front feet hang in front of the chest. So if I can show a jumper rider, look, we just changed the angle and the width independently from each other. And we also looked at the mane of the horse. So we give where the mane falls, that's the right side most of the time. Why don't we open the left side a little bit more? All of a sudden, the left leg doesn't hang so low, and boing, both legs are beside. That's what the jumper rider looks. Racing industry, they look at the stopwatch. They look at the camera. You get eliminated if you move the line at the finishing track. If I have something, I see Sophie wears an Apple Watch or smartwatch, right? These things exist for horses as well on the track. I can not only see the heart rate, the stride, but also the straightness. By a saddle fitting? Well, yeah. So this is what I love about science. Data is what it is. Of course you can manipulate data, but if I have a heart monitor, what I use as a trainer to train my race horses, okay, or a stopwatch, obviously why would I manipulate this? Because I'm training my own horse. I can gauge that. So to answer your question now, what are the subtle signs? There is so many parts what can make the horse hate the saddle. I call it circle of influence. And because the saddle is the influencer, or sorry, the intermediate, the piece what's between two being, it will tell the one or the other being, I'm off balance. The rider says, I'm falling back or I'm falling right. Or the horse, yesterday I could jump. Yesterday I understood. We're doing tempi changes. Yesterday my stride was so much longer. I just can't move as much. Of course you could say, well, happen you forgot the horse got cast last night. Or obviously, we got to take that to the side. And obviously we're talking about nothing changed. The only one thing changed, that there's no dramatic changes, right? So how come from one moment to another moment, we see behavior changes? Nothing will happen to my glass of water when one drop goes in, but eventually it overflows. So a problem, when it shows in behavior I recognize as a everyday rider, it's going on for a while. I'm trying to go to the part to say, hey, your faucet is dripping. That glass is going to overspill soon. I'm trying to get people to understand things will become a problem if you don't check. I call it the windshield wiper effect. Everybody can do it. I teach this to like 7-year-olds in Pony Club. Everybody can check it. So finally, I answer your question. What are the subtle signs? The horse doesn't come galloping to you anymore when you come to the barn and you want to get him from the paddock. He doesn't even come with all the treats you're trying to coach him by. They had enough of you. Of course, that can be your training, but let's pretend nothing changed. Okay?
Yeah.
So there is all these excuses we like to make up as saddle fitters, but let's say I checked all my boxes and I work very close with my vet, my osteo, my chiro, my acupuncture. You know, I have a team, everything is great. But all of a sudden, oh my God, I'm doing a good job. The horse posture changed. The horse is starting to lift the base of the neck. Oh my God, I see a beautiful developed neck. Look how he's nice and round behind his butt now, you know, everything is coming together. Come on, if I'm a conductor and you guys are my nutrition and bodybuilders, and I have a beautiful jacket, and if everything works out and I'm getting better posture because with your help and your nutrition, I use this as an example, my jacket eventually will get a little small. And my job as a conductor will get shitty. Sorry, didn't mean to say the word. Instead, keep it natural. So eventually my movement becomes subtle to the part where half of my orchestra has no clue what I'm saying. So and this is what the horse does. What's another thing? Triple cosine. We know the tail swishing, we know the wide eye, the teeth, the whole 9 yards. For me, what I didn't listen to it is it doesn't take, please, I'm going to say this really with an underlining, and I love when I got this advice for Dr. Tracy Turner. He says, do you honestly think the mare will say, or the stallion will say to the lion and the white, excuse me, I got to weigh them up 20 minutes, got to stretch first. They can go from 1 minute to the next. Boom. I got a whip smacked in my back from my old riding instructor. I'm not saying you need that too. I'm just trying to tell the story. The story was the second you sit on the horse, don't just put your leg over it and bounce, plump into your back of the horse. Be gentle, sit soft in your back, and then sit light. Give the horse the chance to walk off the mounting block to do what first? Bring the back up. Why is the back up so important? So that horse has a chance to get the haunches underneath. To do what? To get and shift their weight, to get the weight of the forehead. My master always told me never ride a horse with an how do I say that in English? These are certain German words I can't translate in English. It's like if you choose to shoot bow and arrow. Okay, you got to put tension on the back of the string for the bow to bend, and when you let the arrow go, it goes forward, right? So in order to get a little tension on the front part of the bow and arrow, okay, that's how I was explained. The horse needs to bring the back up so the spinal processes will have a chance to not compress or conduct what we know as kissing spine. So the cool part, I hate to constantly name throw things. What am I saying I hate it? I love it. I love it because I'm done with the belly button syndrome. The cool part is science has shown us, veterinarians taking, like you, time of their busy life and make beautiful examples where they hold an equine spine in midair by vet students holding it. Mm-hmm. And when they pull it up, you see all the nice pulled together. So there's one up, there's a neutral, and then there's down. So obviously when I sit on the horse's back, it will go down. We call that gravity. I don't want to go into the Apple story of Newton. I'm just want to say, as long as you're sitting on a horse's back, no matter what I ride, there will be weight on it.
So allowing that moment at the mounting block to give the rise back. I suppose that is a little bit the fact that, you know, that we want soft movement for posture, like slow and controlled. And so if you've given them the moment at the mounting block to just readjust to the change in balance, of course, like the rider weight as well, and then they can just rebalance to give themselves their lift. So we talk about like a little bit of core engagement, just a little bit of engagement of the hind end before you step off. So just allowing the moment, you know, it's an interesting example what you said about the drops of water in the glass. So I saw a horse this weekend for body work that has had some time off, but she gave me the example that she'd been riding her horse for a good amount of time, you know, at least 6 months consistently. She wasn't sure if her saddle had been damaged the whole time, but her trainer had been telling her you need to just keep pushing through these behaviors. And she said, I just wasn't comfortable. This was the first time I'd seen the horse, but she went to a saddle fitter because the horse's behavior was getting worse. And she was being blamed by her trainer for her riding and her consistency. She was a bit older. She said, I've lost my confidence and my core strength. And she'd been told your horse is a Ferrari, and you're not a Ferrari driver. So, you need to work on yourself. And her horse's tree was broken. Her saddle tree was broken. And so she'd had a saddle refit, but also taken time off because, she'd had an assessment from a vet who said, your horse's back is sore. I'm not sure why. It didn't have kissing spines, but, it's a good analogy, the droplets in the cup, because it wasn't anything huge, but it got to the point that her horse had bucked her off once, but the behavior had been changing, and so that timeline could have looked different if she hadn't gone to Saddle Fit and said something is going on. My expensive, well-fitting saddle isn't doing. I'm going to check all the pieces of the puzzle, and that she'd found something significant. So it's a powerful reminder. I'm just wondering, in terms of saddle fitting, because obviously we start young horses with the saddle on their back when often they haven't been conditioned, like they don't have a lot of strength. Often their back hasn't been conditioned to being ridden, or their whole body. How do you see saddle fitting on the horse's timeline in terms of from the very beginning, and when do you think a refit is appropriate? Because the general consensus, I think we maybe said in our other saddle fitting podcast that we'd done earlier ourselves, about every 6 months to a year, depending on your horse, how soon their body is changing, what kind of work you're doing. What are your general or specific sort of recommendations?
Okay. Before I answer this, I'm just going to finish my answer to Raquel. And I love that answer a lot, which ties in nicely with what I'm going to say, the behavior changes. Because I told you the story Dr. Tracy Turner told me, right? Then I told you what I was told, how to mount on the horse and how to gentle sit in. But I haven't told you what to watch for when you get on the horse. So when you get on the horse and you really explained it well, give the horse to shift their weight, give him a chance to know where you are, how you sit. This is what he said. The step away from the mounting block is what you judge. See, horses in trotting and in canter, you guys know it, but maybe not everybody in your listening world knows. A horse is a flight animal. The second the horse trots or canters, endorphins rush in and hide the pain. So how he walks off the mounting block, you see, where's his hind leg stepping in? Is he stepping short, or he's stepping in or over? Then you have him circle 120-meter circle just in the walk with the rider. Just walk, watch the footfall, watch the footfall. The horse's eyes and ears don't lie, neither their movement, the posture, right? So as a reminder, we're given that this horse is well shod, well looked after, well trained, has good body maintenance, okay? So I'm buying a new saddle. I love it. But I feel something weird, so I'm going to get a saddle fitter in. So the saddle fitter needs to look at the first two circles, one to the left, one to the right. And then you do the same in trot and canter. Do not wait until the Olympic rider or the top rider says, well, he has to warm up first. In 20 minutes, he's perfect. He doesn't say it in the wild. He doesn't need to say it underneath you. Well, in the wild, he doesn't get ridden and he's free and can mope around. Fine. Launch him first. That might be even better. Put it on the launch line. Walk, trot, canter. Question. Should the rider, when he is on, has the same, worse, or better? Answer, of course, it's better. It's my duty as a rider to engage the back and bring the weight up, to engage with the breadth of my trousers, to get the hind leg to be more activated, to carry and shift his weight. So this is just a very simple test. And many saddle fitters who I teach say, oh, you know what? I am so busy, never have time. Now I should watch them ride. Give me a break. I'm not a rider. I have no idea what to watch. Oh my God, you cannot identify where the front hoof is in the sand and the back hoof is over or behind? right? And I find that so massively valuable from a rider who's also a veterinarian who taught or teaches. I don't know if he still teach. This is over 20 years ago at the University of Wisconsin. So he says to Minnesota, I'm sorry. He said to me, I love these horses and they're so honest. They're so great. And this was before the ethogram. This is before. And when Dr. Raquel was asking me, what is the subtle science? Start with that. Start with seeing how does he step off the mounting block. The other ones we know, the swishing tail, the biting, whatever. This was a game changer for me. And this is what you also mentioned in your podcast when you talked about saddle fitting on the 13th of July earlier this year. You said many saddle fitters only do the static. They don't do the dynamic. Right? And I love that when you mention it, right? So I don't care. I should rephrase it. I don't understand how people think you can fit a saddle static. For me, it's important when my horse moves with me on top. We know the back changes, right? So now I come to your question. First of all, did that make sense, what I was saying?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I promise I will be much, much faster now with the rest of the answers. I won't swing up so much to the history.
No, it's good for people to hear the underlying concept. That's a big part of this podcast is the concept underneath the reason we do something gives people the context to judge other things that come into their life as well. Because if you give people maybe the underlying rationale, then they can use that information to make judgments about other information that somebody gives them about saddle fit. So you providing the why is very valuable.
Thank you. So my dad taught as well.
Yes, my dad too. We're both here. Thanks, Dad. Thanks to the dads. Yeah. Yeah.
So low back, how often should I check? Remember how I said I wish people identify the problem before they start biting you, before they stop coming from the paddock? In a sense, we're already doing that. Yes, we should check the wither clearance. I don't know where the tree was broken from the story you were just saying. Was it broken from front to back or from left to right? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. One of the biggest areas where tree breaks, because the tremendous amount of force, it's in the front. The stirrup bar is attached here. Okay. We call that the falling surface. So if you go bareback on the horse and you put your hands in front of you and push yourself up, so almost like you want to do a little mini handstand. You're not doing a handstand, but you push your butt away from the horse by putting the weight on your hands. It is so much easier at the back of the saddle, where the back of the saddle is. Why? Because the back is flatter, I should say. So now you want to do the same exercise right behind the shoulder. Good luck, right? Because your hands want to slide down. So we call this a shear factor. So there's a tremendous amount of force where the pressure wants to slide down and shear the skin. So in saddle making, this is where the saddle tree comes in. Okay? They have this bracket in here, sometimes 1, sometimes 4. This sometimes breaks. So in Pony Club, what do we learn? Put the saddle pad on or the numna and lift it up in the front. What else we learn? Put the saddle on, make sure it has 2 to 3 finger clearance. So this is sort of the basic. Maybe you learn how to put your hand from front to back underneath, under the panel, to see, does it have even contact? Okay? But what we also do is, I seen it in riding school, and my buddy, he rode also 3 eventing, I says, one of your billet already broke, and the other billet has elongated holes. These billets will pop any minute. Are you nuts? Are you crazy to go cross country in this? So your smart rider would say, maybe not. Right? So we kind of do a saddle fitting check. What if everybody can get a pencil into a grooming box or a pen? What is flexible is even better. What if we can do every day a saddle fitting check? Not we, you, me, the rider. What if we give them, based on science, no, belly button opinions, based on science, if the windshield water or the windshield exercise, let me rephrase it, the windshield wiper exercise doesn't work, get it checked. You can have this perfect windshield wiper exercise. You do this every day, and from one day to the next day, why is it happening? So let's put that in perspective. What am I talking here? If I take a pen and wipe it back and forth like the windshield wiper on my car, people get the idea. I know you can see me, but maybe the people who listen to me right now can see me. All right, now I want you to visualize your horse in front of you. And I think we all as horse people can say eventually the mane ends somewhere. Somewhere the mane ends. We can find that spot at the withers. Never mind how far forward, how far back, never mind. So then put your pen and your fingers at the end of the mane. So if I'm don't hold the windshield wiper up, I hold the windshield wiper down. So now the pen is pointing down where the end of the mane is. And then I flick it back to the base of the withers, back and forth, back and forth. So pencil what is sometimes 3.5, 4.5, 5 inches long, okay? What you're checking is the wither cup, not the top, the muscle, right? What's beside the withers. We know it as a rider. Oh, I think my saddle pinches the withers. We all heard that. Okay? When we look at bears, dogs, cats, horses, what happens to a little kitten, for example? When you lift that little kitten up and you lift it up, the kitten goes schlaff, numb. Right? So what happens when stallions fight each other for the herd? First they go face, of course, lower neck or leg. But once the horse is down, yes, he grabs him at the scruff, right on top. Okay, fine, you keep the girls. I find myself another herd. And then, since 35 million years, the stallion still does it when he breeds the mare. So when the mare is ready to be bred, you've seen it in movies, you've seen it yourself. That instinct is there to bite the mare in the neck. So what does it do? It ignites. You have such a beautiful, eloquent way of using all these names of the nerves and the muscles, but my dad always says, doesn't matter if you teach physics at university or grade 8, talk kindergarten language, so people understand what you're trying to explain. So when the horse bites in the wither cup, that ignites a reflex, like I hit my funny bone, my ulnar nerve, goes all the way to the pinky. So that reflex makes the horse stop going forward, like the little kitten hangs there. But what it also does, it pulls the pelvis open by contracting the longest muscle, longissimus dorsi, where your saddle sits on top in the middle of that. Right? So the horse back goes hollow. The pelvis opens up and he can breed her. Like Dr. Katalina Thiersen from Johannesburg, who taught at many universities in all the different continents, as her sea-base shows. She says, you can't train pain. The pain can be relocated. I can hear him somewhere else, so he stops it. But I whack him like crazy as soon as I get off the mounting block. You go forward. He might go very far forward, but he will still have a little mincy legs, right? The mincy steps, he won't step up. So if that windshield wiper exercise doesn't work on your horse, you need to fit your horse saddle. But I just had it fitted 2 weeks ago, and you said fit it every half a year. Well, when do you know he had that super breakthrough in growth spurt, or after he had the treatment from you or from Dr. Raquel, maybe you finally took him out of this holding frame. Oh, now I have this great posture. I lift the base of my neck. I feel like Superman. And now comes this darn frickin' saddle, what comes like the stallion's bite and undoes everything you just did. Even though I just had that saddle fit 2 weeks ago. So this is why I don't get it when professions don't work together. It is absolutely nuts not to consult with each other and look at the well-being of the horse first. You can't fit a saddle to a horse in the holding pattern. So it's very hard to answer your question, how often should the saddle fit? That's why I like to answer this. There's 6 basic steps every, I don't want to say baby, but 8-year-old can do. What is so easy? So back to what I said. Find the end of the mane, grab the pencil, hold it upside down, and then you go back and forth to the base of the withers. Swish, 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 upside down windshield wiper. Now put the saddle on. No saddle pad, no rider, no girth, just loosely the saddle. If you still can do it, perfect.
So you're going along the side of the horse, like from head to tail, along that way? Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Yeah. So you do that on each side. Yeah.
Yeah, hold your pen up again, Raquel. Hold it up. So pretend your index finger is the end of the mane. Do not move that point away. Just move the tip of the pen towards the tail. Back and forth. Yeah, like that. So wherever the tail is, if you take...
And you want to do that, be able to sneak your hand in and do that underneath the saddle when you put it on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to demonstrate this now because I still dream in German. I still speak German. And sometimes I don't say it so good in English. So I'm going to demonstrate it here on my little saddle horse. And then you're going to explain it in the real English. Okay? So here's my little saddle horse. Can you see it?
Yes.
Let me just turn this one light off. Maybe it's better to see. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Okay. So if we, let me just get my little friend here. If we say the end of the mane, 8 out of 10 horses ends where the end of the scapula is. Okay, which is basic. Let's don't get too technical, just to make a point.
Yeah.
Okay, the end of the mane. So we got the cartilage here, the shoulder blade, end of the mane. So I put my pen here. And you see how I wipe it back and forth. This is the tail, obviously.
Yeah.
Back there, the end of the base of the withers. So all I do windshield wiper. Plop, 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 plop. So obviously I practice this without the saddle. So now I'm going to put 2 saddles on. Okay? And I'll use the first one here. It says, oh, I've paid attention to the pony club. I know that the D ring is to 90% in front of the metal plate. So if I make sure that the D ring is in line with the end of the mane, most likely I will bypass this vulnerable spot, what is cartilage, bone, and then the respiratory pressure point, BL13, which we may or may not have time to talk about today. So now I have that saddle on top. I got 2 to 3 finger clearance. I do the windshield wiper. Remember, no girth, no saddle pads, nothing. Here you can see how I have to bend the pen. Look at that. It doesn't even go. Look at that.
Yeah, so you started up the top in the gullet area, and then you're kind of seeing if you can swipe it down along the side of the wither.
It doesn't go. It's not ridiculous.
It's stuck
this
there.
hangs like a nutcracker, right? With the sliding bites here. It flares away here. Okay, so if I take this saddle, push down, push down, push down, push down, or loosely, have it in the right spot. Are you joking me? Why is that so easy? Why is that working? Because when you look inside, it doesn't hang on here. It rests on the area you just described so eloquently in your podcast on July the 13th. So maybe you can explain to our listeners quick what you saw.
Yeah, well, there was the ability for that pen to move through in the wither pocket there, so coming from the spine downwards, and there was plenty of space through that area where we often see a lot of wastage, so like it's in the trapezius area, so that the saddle's kind of sitting, more, well, it's allowing the scapula to move really underneath the saddle. So that's like the most important concept, but there's a complete freedom of the pen to move in that area.
Right. So, and I think this is where it starts to really part with the so-called saddle fitting school. I love the way you explained how important it is to have plenty amount of space for the spine. Okay. If I have a young horse or very old horse, unless I have some major issues, I don't need to use more than squishing a blueberry. That's not a lot of pressure. So I call that blueberry pressure. So if I put that not on top of the spinal processes, just an inch over, and run my finger towards the shoulder, from the back towards, you can see the back muscle flickering. Yeah, not spasm, but reacting in the way I hopefully not happen when I'm sitting on my horse, because the last thing is want that horse's back muscle to spasm. So this is why you won't find a single army saddle or Western saddle or tracking saddle what has the bars a minimum of 4.5 to 5 inches apart. Yes, the leather and the skin goes in. Please, for the love of God, why do people still make saddles where you have 1 or 2 finger clearance? Because they sell the saddles as, oh, this saddle fits all the horses. One fits all. And people buy it and spend, I don't know how many thousands. Here's a prime example. I grew up in Buenos Aires. Big sport is what? Polo. In polo, you need 6 polo ponies, right? Because you change constantly through the chakra. Now, compare that to the other sport that's played in Australia. What they call that
Polo cross.
Polo cross.
Yeah.
They only have 3 horses. What tree is it? Nice wide bars, not on the spine. Of course, it's hard on the horse. Let's just give that the case. But why would I put a saddle what pinches, literally pinches and snaps on top the spinal process like a clothespin, like you just said, right? And put the pressure away. So this is why it's so hard for me, Sophie, to say, how often do I check my saddle? Imagine, Sophie, everybody does at least one of the 6 pencil tricks. So easy. Because what this shows me, can you guys do me a favor and put your hands together? Just flat. So for the people who don't see it, we have our hands together as if we pray. So keep your fingertips together and just widen it on the bottom. You can see that the angles of your hands is a little bit more flatter than like this, right? So why don't you go ahead and say narrow tree? Go ahead. Narrow tree. Say it, Raquel.
Oh, yeah. Narrow tree. Yeah.
Sophie?
Tree.
Medium tree.
Medium tree.
Medium tree.
Wide tree.
Wide tree.
So
Wide.
show me a narrow white tree.
Narrow wide tree.
A little bit less.
It's not possible.
Okay. So to this day, people haven't given the tools or the easy explanation how I can check saddle fitting for the tree angle and the tree width. If I buy a helmet, man, that better fit me from front to back. And if it's too narrow, I look stupid because that helmet sits on top. If it's too wide, I can't see. Yeah. So that's a helmet width. On the side, the helmet, they stick out like a sombrero. If I ride around, that helmet sits crooked. If it's too tight, it cuts into my temples. I get a headache. So the sides have to sit in the same angle like the side of my head. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The windshield wiper test. Test the tree width. So put your hands together. Go narrow tree.
Narrow tree.
No, add a word behind it. Narrow tree angle.
Narrow tree angle.
With the wide tree width.
With a wide tree width.
So the distance between your fingertips, it's the tree width. In saddlery, I show you. We look at where's the D-ring, how much space is from here to here. That was the one with the narrow tree width. A helmet, what's too narrow? But you see how it flares out? That's the tree angle. So imagine this. Every rider can make this little check. Hey, is my tree angle still fitting my horse's shoulder angle? And is my tree width still wide enough for my horse's shoulder? Especially when the horse wants to jump, when both shoulders come through, right? So the tree width, write down, or everybody who's listening, think about windshield wiper.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one I show you, I call it the barn door exercise. Everybody gets it who has horses, who live in a barn where you have this giant barn door and you gotta close it. And boy, if there's dirt in the track, you hate it. It's super hard. You wouldn't even try to attempt it to close the barn door if it's off the rail and it's off keel. So what I like to say to people, can you make a sound just using your hands by swishing? Let me hear it. Like this.
Are you moving your hands like this?
Yeah, like this.
Oh, yeah.
Like your hands are rubbing past each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I want you to use your pinky finger against your index finger like this. Right? And now hit it 3 times as hard as you can. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that didn't feel good, right?
No.
So if this is the horse's scapular angle, and you put now a saddle on what matches the angle of the tree, the shoulder blade can slide through.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, if it's off keel, just like the barn door, it will not open, correct? What if I would come to your barn and look at your barn and says, I think you guys are just weaklings. I can close this barn. And your husband or boyfriend or barnmate happens to work and plays Australian football, big bloke, super strong, and he can't even do it. And here I come, this skinny little German, says, let me show you how to open this door. And everybody watches, how is he going to do it? I'm going to sit in front of you and go into your tractor, grab the front loader, and I'm going to push that door closed or open. What do you think happens?
Break the door.
You break the door. So if the angle is off, do you think the tree breaks on your saddle? No. The metal, the tree is super strong, for sure stronger than the horse's cartilage, muscles, or bones.
So the horse breaks.
So if I see stuff like this, and you get those from almost every university where they can send you bone pieces, okay? This little bone growth is not normal. What do I know? I may not become a veterinarian, but this has been shown by veterinarians to me who do a lot of dissections. She said to me, have you ever hit your chin by accident? Multiple times. I played soccer. I've been kicked against it. And when I feel this, I know exactly where it is, because bone grows bone if it gets attacked or slammed against it. So if I have a saddle, well, it's a thoroughbred, we got him from the track, we're going to give it a wide angle, but it's still narrow. See how it kinks in and then it flares out? Okay. If the angle doesn't match, it got to hit somewhere. Okay, so you could say, whoa, there's stuffing in between, there's flocking, there's muscle. Okay, another analogy. If you're flexible, grab your thumb. I want to see if I can show this with the camera, and jam it against behind your scapula. Can you see this?
So it's behind your back and up against your scapula.
So if I keep that there and force my shoulder back, how long do you think the horse plays that game?
Yeah, it's pretty painful.
Okay, so that was like 4 or 5 clips, and I still feel that. spot. But my hand didn't have a metal plate. My hand wasn't girthed up. There was nobody on top of my hand. The shear factor, the amount of pressure what goes where the rider is in front of the rider sits, it's incredible. So here is a very, very, very easy way of taking your pencil. You go to your saddle. I don't care if it's Western or English, if it's $100 or $2,000. Gentle bend it. Okay, you see where it bends? This is where the
And just
metal.
bending the front of the panel to see
That's
where
right.
it creates a bit of a crease. Yep.
That's where the metal plate ends. Okay, so wherever we call that the vertical panel. This, what sits from front to back, the horizontal panel. So the vertical panel, wherever it starts, see where my index finger is and my thumb? This is where we measure the tree width. Or, for people who don't listen, from D-ring to D-ring. Then from that point where it starts, put your pen against it. Just put it there with a clip, with a little scotch tape, whatever. Just put it in there, leave it in there. Then what you do, you take your pen, you go to the horse, and you put it on the shoulder. You don't put it on top of the shoulder or on the corner of the shoulder. Remember my helmet story? You put it on the side of the shoulder. Now, how do I find it? Very, very simple. And I'm not talking about for miniature horses or horses over 17.3, okay? For your average horse, which is not extremely tall or extremely small. So the first landmark, what every 7-year-old can find, is what I call the end of the mane. So now I have to find the widest part of the shoulder. Okay, most of the time it's 1 hand width, 4-inch, where your saddle sits, right? Right here. So what you're going to do, you take your pencil or pen, you lay it on top of the mane, leave it there, and then you flip it around. This is the top of the shoulder. If you flip it around. Okay,
so you're flipping it around downwards towards the limb.
That's right.
On its point, on its end.
What you're trying to avoid is the spine of the scapula. Okay, you don't want to hit it here. You want it to end partially on the scapula and partially on the cartilage. That's where you end up. So now you have that pen on the horse. Doesn't matter if it's a Western saddle, you can put it on the bars. And then you put it on the horse, the saddle, and compare the two pens. Let me show you. You're looking for, are the barn door aligns with the barn wall? Now, as the horse has no collarbone and as the horse is going through training stages, we have, and you have, some sport, they get into training in 1.5 to 2 years, they race. The racing industry. You know when the growth capsule are finished. Not at that stage. Long time after that. Western world, we have some Western show horses were heavy, 35-pound saddle, sometimes 40-pound saddle, with heavy guys sit on these 2-year-olds. The fact of the matter is, okay, when the saddle doesn't, you're looking at the veterinarian who has the saddle tree here, the horse is dissected, laying on the side, put the tree behind the shoulder blade, okay? When they're D-ring to D-ring, we just learned tree width. How do I know it's fitting? Windshield wiper. Then I want to know if the angle, barn door, matches so it doesn't clip and I destroy the cartilage. So, unfortunately, you can talk and talk until you're blue in the face. Unless you dissect the horse, you don't know. Because we can't take an X-ray of the shoulder up there. We can't put the horse through MRI. Okay. Once you dissect the horse, then you can play CSI saddle fit, crime scene investigation. Or you just think quick back and says, does that make sense for me when I stand in my stirrup and I jam my hand in this triangle? Should it really pinch that much? Or do I have, like you said so beautiful, room for the shoulder blade to move through? Does it make sense for this German to come to Australia to destroy my barn with a tractor? No. Keep the track clean, keep the wall aligned with the door. Binga, banga, bonga. We're all friends. So I find it absolutely disgusting how much saddles are built based on the misinformation. How can I change the gullet plate? There's 25 companies who changes interchangeable gullet plate. If I don't give the customer the option to change width and angle independently, it's on the market. Here's a better place. What if you, as the rider, have a saddle, you can do it. Remember, 2 out of 6. I will give you so far only 2. But just like the bit, like the shoes, bits and shoes made out of metal, they are stronger than the body of the horse.
Yeah.
That sheer force over the withers. If people don't want to learn anything about saddle fit, for heaven's sake, learn the windshield wiper and the barn door. And you can do that every day. You're good for 9 months and all of a sudden it doesn't work. You do it after 2 weeks after you worked on the horse or after the horse has a growth spurt, all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. We need to understand we're dealing with beautiful animals who will give everything to us. And they are learned to hide pain. That's
they're experts at it, that's for sure.
And now that we have all these insane amount of opportunities, like I feel like I'm sitting in Sophie's living room or in your living room, right? We're sitting we're speaking. I see you clearly. I hear you clearly. So we got this beautiful technology called internet. You got so many good diagnostic tools as a vet now. And if we have so many clear signs, don't press the tractor against the barn door, you will destroy my barn. If we then use common sense, we can really make a big difference.
Yeah,
I encourage everybody to think about that.
And I think it is really important that horse owners and horse riders take responsibility for that themselves. You know, we can rely on saddle fitters and professionals to help us. It's the same in the bodywork industry. You know, you can rely on a bodyworker to come and look at your horse, saddle fitter to fit your saddle, hoof care professional to care for your horse's feet. But at the end of the day, you as the horse carer need to take responsibility. So having tools where you can check the saddle yourself, like you said, every single day, because my horse has a muscle condition and he can literally change from day to day. Like his top line can change from day to day. So being able to recognize that for him is really important. And other horses, it can happen too if they've had an injury, you know, in the paddock the day before, they've been turned out for a period of time, or maybe even yesterday's work, you know, something happened that wasn't ideal. So, you know, like you've given them 2 opportunities to check with the windshield wiper test to test that clearance for the scapula, and then the barn door to check for the tree angle and the tree width, which we can hopefully share maybe some links for people to actually see that in case they're listening to the podcast.
Yes, I don't know how you want me to do that. Do I send that later on to you, or how do you want me to
we'll figure it out so that people have access to it, so that they can kind of see it if they're listening at the moment. So you've given us, you know, 2. There's lots of other ways that people can check actually, and then you also gave us the, you know, hopping on your horse, looking at does your horse come up to be ridden? So your horse's response to you offering interaction and work. And then when you first mount at the mounting block, how they feel directly under you before you actually walk off, which is something that we have to, be mindful of, because a lot of people just hop on and they're gone, they don't even, there's not even a split second of thinking or breathing. And I know I'm, starting a young horse for the first time, and the thing that I have to always remember is breathe, like just stop and sit there and breathe and wait till she breathes, and whether that's with or without a saddle. But so, just that moment of mindfulness and feeling the horse, and then the first walk each direction, trot each direction, and canter each direction, really using your brain and just going like, how do they feel? Does it feel the same both directions? Are they responsive and light to my aids? And this should happen, like you said, every single day, because it can change quite quickly, even though it might have been building up really slowly over time. If you're asking the question and asking the why every day, you're more likely to pick it up before your horse is screaming at you that they're just saying, I can't, I'm knocking the rails, I can't now do the flying change, or I can't now, do the half pass in both directions, or I can't even just do a nice balanced, walk, trot, transition. So the more that we can kind of be present in everything that we do with the horse and ask the why all the time, then it's just, yeah, it's just going to help us so much in improving that relationship.
Yeah. I think people in general want to do good. And when they find out what the saddle does to their horse, they feel horrible.
Yeah.
And they don't want to admit it first because, oh my God, what's my friend going to think of me? But deep down, they feel relieved. Because imagine you're constantly changing your tires on the car, and your husband, your friend, yourself, he says, I don't have any more money. I bought so many new tires this year. And then Sophie comes around and says, Raquel, why don't we remove the nails on the end of the driveway? Once we know what keep causing the flat tires, we might get somewhere, and I find when I listen to your podcast about saddle fitting, it says, oh my God, I'm so nervous to get on your show because you guys are so knowledgeable, you know so much. And I was thinking, what can I possibly add to this beautiful task you guys do? So I said, maybe we came up with giving people some basic tools. If you can't afford to buy a pen, they're free in the hotel. Take one next time. Right? So it's really
simple,
inexpensive and simple. And it means the world to the horse.
And thank you for coming with the air of, of contribution. Like, how do you give back to people and give people tools and empower people? And I think it's valuable that you share that your own journey, because it's quite universal often to go through that sort of like that experience of realizing that, oh, I need to think about these concepts. I need to watch my horse moving. Maybe I'm going to reflect on how things are going or did go in the past and move through, feelings of guilt or shame or resistance as well. Like you said, I didn't want to think about the fact that my fancy sponsored company were giving me a saddle that didn't fit. And that is, we've done episodes about the human aspect of doing the right thing for our horses, how it feels to move through all of those emotions. And, you're a professional with 40 years of experience with, multiple avenues, riding, the being a saddler, master saddler, and, everything that you put forth, but it stems from the very beginning was a more humble place to be. So for people to hear that, nobody's a god, wherever it's quite a common experience to have to move through those emotions. So the sooner you have tools to help you, the further you get along with the problem.
Yeah, 100%. And how easy it is to do. Once I know it's difficult if you listen to us here on podcast. What is he talking about? Windshield wiper, So But I'm trying to explain it as good as I can, give analogies like the barn door, like the riding helmet. We all had shitty stuff like that. And the fact is, it doesn't matter if you're from Germany, Australia, or North America, people hate changes. And people don't do changes unless they have pain or fear. So if you ever had a helmet would cause you headaches, you just simply don't do that anymore because that's painful. You change your stinking helmet. So where I'm going with this is we can tolerate it by money I get given or by stories I've been told from the belly button association
or relationships that people form as well. That's often a big part of it too.
It is, right? Right. So, and I like how Sophie says, it's our duty to step up and put the ego to the side, put the horse first, and the horse will look after you. I said I show you two quick important parts. The other four are just as important, and it's even simpler. So if everybody can do that, I think many horses, maybe not saddle salespeople, they're not happy because they can't show you the belly button story anymore. If you give the rider the power of common sense and a quick check, not only do they say, oh my God, Sophie, thank you so much. My horse feels like he just took 10 years off. He's like such a young, he moves free. He is so happy. And then back off, you're leaving the barn, you're checking your back mirror and he says, oh no. They're putting the saddle back on. I just told them. They're going to undo everything you just did. And yes, it thrills you no end to hear customers being happy, but I hate happy customers. I cannot stand happy customers. See, happy customers, they laugh at you, la, 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 and pee you in the shoe while they talk to you. And they talk behind your back, and you think you're a superhero. I cannot stand those people. I'd rather have an unhappy customer who says, I really didn't like how you made me feel.
Yeah.
I really didn't like because you come over and over and over and it never fits. Like you said, saddle fitting really doesn't work, right? So I, of course, don't want unhappy customer. If he doesn't want a happy customer, he doesn't want unhappy. What does he want? I want raving fans. I want a person who, soon as I'm in my car, pick up the phone and says, you won't believe what I just learned from Raquel. Or what I just learned from Sophie or from Jochen. I want to have people, I hate the term drink the Kool-Aid. I want people who felt the difference by how they identified, made the change, which is, okay, maybe I don't use this expensive $395 pad. Maybe I use the one what I can buy at this tack shop for $30. Oh, wow, now the windshield wiper works. Oh, wow, now my horse is so much softer. Oh, wow, the adjustment and the treatment lasts so much longer this time. Right? That's what a raving fan does, because everybody says, guess what I learned from Raquel? That's raving fans. That's what I want.
Empowering their own knowledge and skill set to help their horse, not just saying such and such said, and this is why I do it that way. Like actually, they're asking questions. And I mean, that's what we try to create in the people that we work with in the posture course and with the podcast is like, question every day and ask why. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then have the conversation with the professional. Like, don't be scared to actually have that conversation, because it can be, pretty intimidating sometimes, but you're the only advocate for your horse. And they're relying on you, and you know them better than anyone else, especially the more that you just open 100%. Your observation skills. So
what I love about the two of you, you make it real, you make it hands-on. It was the saying, we said, oh, the dark ages are over, we have the internet. Well, the internet found something new, which we call AI, false news. We find a way through the internet to persuade garbage, and everybody who went through insane amount of medical school or any kind of profession, who has this kid in front of it or an adult says, well, Google says different. You go, oh my God. So what I love about you two, you give the power, and you said it better than I said, given the knowledge, but you also said the skill set. So now I learned the skill set, what I learned from you, and I can feel it because no internet or artificial intelligence can influence me now because I feel it. It's real. So that's why I enjoy what I do working with horses, because what you give back, what you give for free, you get 10 times back. You can't survive this planet with all much work you have to do. And that's a beautiful part of this beautiful world we live in.
Yeah. So we're probably going to need to wrap this one up.
Yes. We didn't get to part two.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of a chat, hopefully, about the rider influence, because there's a lot to chat about there too. So thank you everyone for joining myself, Dr. Raquel Butler, Sophie Vandenberg, and Jochen Schleese today in the podcast. Enjoy your horse time. Please subscribe to the Equine Functional Posture podcast so you don't miss our weekly episodes, and give us a 5-star rating so we can continue to share more valuable insights. We also love to get listener requests, so you're welcome to give us an email with anything that you'd like us to discuss. Thank you so much, Jochen, for coming in and having a great discussion with us as well.
Absolutely. And we'll have some links, the Saddle Fit for Life, which is what Jochen has founded, all in the show notes and everything. So, and he also has a book about saddle fit as well, which is a super valuable read. So we'll put all of that in the show notes, and you should all go and have a look.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Dr. Raquel. And it was a pleasure. Bye-bye, everybody.